Welcome to the Warren Cycling Podcast. My name is Dean Warren. I'm in Sarasota, Florida today.
And I'm Randy Warren, and I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
And we are super excited to have probably the guest we've had on the most, I would say. Frequent. It's got to be most frequent guest, fellow Michigan racer. And man, what a fantastic season you've had this year. Alexey Vermeulen, welcome.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
Where are you, Alexey, too?
Currently in Boulder.
Okay.
Colorado.
Boulder. Yeah. He's getting ready to get back to Michigan. They've had some snow. I think I talked to my parents yesterday, and it was snowing on the western side of the state, some lake effect probably. I don't know how it is in the Ann Arbor, Dexter area, but I'm sure you'll get some nice cold weather there when you get back.
Well, I was just in Colorado Springs last week, and it was 11 degrees, I think, when I woke up one day. So it's
Well, Colorado goes up and down all winter.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of snow in the car one day and ice on the windows another. So no matter what, Alexey, right, you're going to be prepared for what you're going to get in Michigan.
Oh yeah, we've already got about 8 inches here right now in Boulder. So, yeah, we'll see what. Yeah. Hopefully, there's some snow at home.
Yeah, all right, let's get to it. It's episode 308 of the Warren Cycling Podcast, and Alexey with Jukebox Racing this year. You won Belgium Waffle San Diego, Belgium Waffle Michigan, Iceman Cometh now again. It seems to me that you've had maybe one of your most successful years ever racing. How do you rate it? How do you feel about this year?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think it's been just when all the luck falls into place. It's also probably my most successful year, just feeling balanced and finding a place in the peloton. It's cool to be a part of what's growing in the US, and interested to see where it goes in the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, you're second at Lifetime Fitness too, or the series.
Yeah, second at Life. That's a
big... And I saw too. I saw you were on the podium there, and you had your Lifetime sweatshirt on, and that's such a different thing, right? In the road scene, everybody would have been in kit and promoting the sponsors, that kind of stuff too. And all three of the podium people in the Lifetime one were in sweatshirts, and you were the only one I think had a sponsor thing on. Does that seem odd to be that way?
Everything had a sponsor thing on. I think it's just that what we're doing now is, like the podium was after the race. It was 8 hours later. Everyone's enjoying what's been six months of battling, and what we just racing now is a lot less about the podiums. I think it matters, but I don't think that's the only way to be valuable to a sponsor. So the billboard piece of it, I just don't think it's almost gaudy nowadays what we're doing.
Can you talk a little bit about your big wins, though, which was more satisfying, if one was more satisfying than the other? I mean, I know Iceman Cometh maybe doesn't rank on the national calendar, but as far as the atmosphere and what you're part of with that event, it must be really special too. So I don't know, is there a way to rate them at all, the races this year, or how they're all kind of different, aren't they?
Yeah,
right.
I'd say they're very different. And I'd honestly put Iceman on the national calendar. I mean, there's 10 guys who could have won this year, which is, I mean, it's always going to be something when there's 5,500 plus racers there. But yeah, both were big. They're just so different, and such different. I mean, literally one of the first races I did and one of the last races I did. So it's good bookends on the year, and gives me a little fire to finish off one of the other races in the middle that I have my eye on.
Yeah, can you share which ones you have your eye on, if they're more than one? Or
yeah, I haven't really pinpointed it yet. Just something in there in the middle, either Leadville or Unbound. To me, this year was kind of lost in the chaos of everything, but would love to kind of focus on one of those at some point here.
That just kind of shows the diversity of your calendar now too, because Leadville and Unbound are two diametrically opposed races in some ways. Mountain bike at altitude versus more of a faster gravel kind of race. So your racing has changed a lot of the time, and you kind of always put it in Iceman no matter what, right? And just to have that kind of race in your calendar, but now you're just really diversified yourself.
Yeah, I mean, the Grand Prix forced that also. I mean, it's three gravel races, 3 mountain bike races, but I mean, that's always been the fun since leaving the road. Is, to me, it was learning a new discipline of cycling. And like the gravel scene is, if you pretend you don't have to handle your bike, you're woefully wrong. And mountain biking is it adds the fun back to what grew up in the US. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see where I end up falling, but I mean, the schedule's very different. I mean, still racing US Pro Nationals and race the road race at Sea Otter. So there's a lot of different racing on the calendar. I think the biggest difference, honestly, but from the road though, is that just a lot less race days. So it's just a lot of different places, but a lot less race days.
Is it harder for you to, if you like this last year, like I focused on road much, and I only did 2 gravel races all year long and no mountain bike races. And so that's just kind of where the focus was. And I kind of have to shift mentality when I'm gonna do more gravel. And so I'm gonna do more gravel next year. So I'm already thinking about that. For you to do so many different things, is it hard for you to shift mentalities back and forth between the two, or does it flow pretty easily?
No, it's pretty simple. I mean, for me, I think it's mainly just a mental thing. You finish a race you've been training for, and the next race is so different. So everything changes, whether it's training or the bike you're riding or anything else. So I think, the big thing for me was just keeping balance and not overexerting myself in any one of those races. And just knowing there's a long year. I mean, I don't start racing till April, which is late for most guys, and still a long year, April to November. So adds up.
A lot of people aren't racing all the way till November though either, so push a little bit.
But they have to race. They race to the last weekend of October.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not much different. Like, just because the Grand Prix forces so much change nowadays, like that is April to October is the shortest you can make your season with the Grand Prix.
Yeah, the Big Sugar is the mandatory race too, right? So you can't skip that one if you wanted to.
Yeah, but even I mean, I don't really know anybody who skipped things on purpose. It's either injury or sickness, but otherwise everyone's there. It's just like, you put too much into a couple races to skip out. But yeah, so I mean, I guess my point of that is that in my mind, everything's mandatory if you're signing up for the series. But I don't know. It's just cool to have structure and validation to the US race scene again.
Well, I was gonna say next year they're adding a 7th one, but they're still going to count 5, I think, right? So you could not score in 2, and then the 7th one's an unknown at this point too, right? They said that they'll announce it in January.
Yeah, no, it'll be exciting. I feel like it's going to be something fun, and it's going to be balanced, right? It's a lot of racing.
Can you tell us about how you feel about now the UCI Gravel World Championships and where you see that fitting in? I mean, do you have an opinion? Some people, of course, didn't want to go at all, or it wasn't even that gravelly of a race. It was looked like nice scenery, but how do you feel about that UCI involvement? So what?
I don't have much opinion. I think until I go, there's nothing that I could say that would be real. I don't know. It's not on my plans at all for the next couple of years. It's something that I see gravel growing in Europe, but that doesn't affect my sponsors positively. So there's no point in doing it. That's very much what this comes down to. Is nowadays it's a lot more like the racing's a third of it, validating the equipment you're riding, but the rest of it's just being a person. And going over there would just be for me for fun, which just isn't something I put on the calendar right now. Other goals. So until I do it, I have nothing to say, but I think it's cool. It's growing over there.
So what about next year in 2023, there will more than likely be a national championship for gravel.
Yeah.
And so is that, and they haven't announced the dates yet or the venue. So it makes it kind of hard because all the other gravel races are all announced already too. And so it's hard to plan that. But is that something you'd be interested in as well, just because it's a national championship, or again, the same thing, your sponsors maybe not so interested in it?
Probably not. I mean, I'd have to see where it goes and where it falls, and if it's something I could use as focus. But I've been stoked on the Grand Prix, and I want to add a little bit of other racing around side that. And there's not much room in the year to do much more than that. I mean, this year I did the Grand Prix plus 5 or 6 individual races. So you're talking about 14, 13 race days, maybe 15 max, and including some races at home. And I flew like 44 flight segments. So it's like, this isn't the same, because without back-to-back races, like stage races, it's not really sustainable to keep chasing everything. If it fits in, for sure, I'm always up to race, but it's not something I think I'll chase. I'd rather kind of see how it plays out. And and honestly, I'd rather have a pro road championship jersey than I would a gravel championship jersey, just coming from where I started.
Sure. Yeah. So
Yeah,
did you ever do
that's-
cyclocross? Because that's kind of the same thing where like it's hard to do everything in cyclocross. When they try to do some national series, it's hard to go East Coast, West Coast, Northwest, Northeast, that kind of stuff too. And so people kind of end up focusing, or if you're international, then when do you go to Europe? When do you come back? It's hard to balance that kind of stuff. And in some ways, what you're doing is kind of similar. You have to pick and choose a little bit where you're gonna make your focus.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've never done cyclocross. I probably never will because there's not enough time in a year at all. Yeah, I think it's similar. I think the difference is because gravel is ever growing, you never know what's important, right? It's a constant check-in with people to see what's important to the people that are supporting you, which I think is a little abnormal from what I guess it's the same as cyclocross. It's definitely abnormal from road, just that it used to be you're one of 28 riders and your opinion is small, and now it's kind of on you to make those decisions right.
And it shifts too with gravel too, kind of what's more important and what's less. I'm just probably I'm planning a gravel camp in March, and it used to be that Southern Cross was a huge race and people would travel from all over to go to it. And now it seems like they go to more to Mid-South, which is the next week, and a little bit less to Southern Cross. And it's like, what makes those changes? Hard to say, right?
Yeah. They're both too early for me. I've done Southern Cross once. Yeah, I think it just depends on what's growing and what fits this this version of what people's calendar needs to look like. I've heard spectacular things, and I don't know. It's always interesting. Like I was just trying to plan out calendar yesterday, and I'm like, it's kind of boring. It's the exact same schedule for the most part. But that's what it is. I mean, right now I'm fine with it and excited to do more races. In 5 years, check back in. Maybe that's not the case. But right now I think it's about conquering the races that are on the schedule and adding in what you want to where you can for the smaller races. Because everyone wants to say they're going to do Unbound, but the reality is, okay, you do it and it's over. And then what's next?
Anything new that we're missing out? Last time we talked to you last year, a little bit too early, and you couldn't announce your new team. Is there any surprise or anything that we can look forward to? Is it going to just be the continuing what you did this year then for next year?
Yeah, it's pretty much all the same sponsors. I mean, I've been pretty excited about everything. Now it's kind of launched that Envy's making bikes, which is cool. I've been really enjoying working with them. It's been a great partnership with Factor for mountain bikes, and obviously that very pretty wheelie bike that they made. But lots of the same. I mean, I think that's kind of the goal of this, though, is not much movement. When you're a privateer, there's a reason and loyalty, and it's your choices. So you need to find companies that work for you very quickly and stick with them. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's not changes for the next 5 years, 10 years. The goal is not, unless it's not working for a certain reason. So I actually can't think of one sponsor that's changing right now.
And Jukebox is kind of so you have a hybrid, right? Jukebox has its set of sponsors, and then you have some other sponsors besides that too, right?
Jukebox doesn't have any sponsors. Jukebox is a title sponsor, so it's not a team per se. It's a way to tie everyone together. You have all these really cool people racing for their own thing. So you can look at Ashton Lambie, track world champion, sub 4, individual pursuit, all the way to like Phil Guyman, who's somewhat retired and just goes and takes Stravas and a very interesting person himself. And so it's more just a collection of people than it is anything else, and it's a way to support what we all want to do, which is nice.
That's a good kind of sponsor to have, isn't it?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool.
Tell us a little more, though. I mean, Iceman Cometh just happened a couple weekends ago, and it was very tight race to the finish. I mean, it looked like it was a pretty fast day, was it? And just kind of go through, because you've won before, and I know it makes you hungry to win again. And the way the crowds that they have there have to be exhilarating. How was it? How difficult was it to get this win this year?
Well, Iceman's always hard because you have to pick the right moment. Like you said, it's always fast. I mean, I've never seen Iceman in the pro race be over 2 hours. I mean, you're looking at an hour and a half sprint. This year was definitely more tactical than years past. Just kind of, I wasn't sure where I was. I came back from Europe probably 3 days before that. And so I was very focused on like, how can I find my moment? And also didn't want to we had a bunch of younger guys there. I mean, podium only, I think me
I
and one other
saw
guy
that, some
could
really young,
drink.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, you start having guys doing World Cups over there, which that's their bread and butter. It's that 90-minute effort. Just paying attention to what I could, and just using hometown advantage when I could, and knowing course. And I'd done a lot of research on it. And yeah, I wouldn't say it was less of anything. It was more of a surprise in 2019, to be honest. 2019, I would say I'd spent hours and hours on that course, and I knew exactly what I was going to attack. And this year is much more based on feel. But yeah, crowds didn't change. The finish was insane. Still my favorite race of the year every year. It's so fun. And I think after getting caught on the finish climb with 30 seconds to go in 2021, it made it even more special this year. But yeah, then I immediately remember that Brian Motters won it 4 times, and I have 2 more to go. So long way.
Yeah, what about these young guys? So, I mean, does that concern you a little bit? These guys coming up, you got more. No, you're gonna
Yeah, I'm
you're gonna have your advantage.
No, I'm not too worried. I mean, Riley Amos will win that race at some point. So Braden Johnson, who's second. I mean, both those guys, if they keep coming back, they'll win it. I mean, Iceman's like that, right? Everyone's really strong, but the course, you can't point to a place in the course where you're like, oh, that's where the race is going to break up. And so it ends up always being one weird moment that things split, either because someone does it or because someone makes a mistake. And you're on the right side of that, the wrong side of that. So yeah, I don't know. You can already start thinking about next year right now, and it still won't make a difference. So
That's right.
I don't know. I think that's special. And it looks like Iceman's growing again after COVID, which is awesome. And yeah, I don't know how many more than 5,500 you can get out there, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got a lot of it's a lot of history behind that too. I mean, they had a Norman Nationals race, in Traverse City area at one point in time too. So that the area of Traverse City has got a big history of mountain biking, and this just keeps building on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I was going to ask you about the Michigan Belgian waffle. I mean, Belgian waffle is really like growing, and we've talked about a little bit. That seems like it's growing a little bit faster than maybe it's ready to. I don't know if you feel that, and the different Belgian waffle ride that because like the San Diego was always selling out so fast, and it seems like some of the other ones aren't filling up as quickly or as popular. Maybe as because there's so many now, or
yeah, I don't know. I've been stoked on the Belgian waffle rides. So just another series to add to your calendar, which is awesome to fit things around. Yeah, I mean, I don't think a race has to sell out to be successful. I think that's sometimes it's too much, honestly. You have some of these races where I look at Leadville and Unbound, and they're a big part of my season because of the Grand Prix. But if you have somebody getting into the sport and they think that's their validation, they don't get in because the lottery, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything more special about those races, to be honest, than I do another race. If it's your first race, right, go enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, Belgian waffle, I don't have that much speed. I've only done 3 of them. Like, I've done Cedar City once, I've done Michigan once, and I've done San Diego 3 times. I love them, put them in where I can. A lot of them for me right now, just they don't fit in for a full training program. Like Kansas is right after Unbound. Not Kansas, North Carolina's right. Yeah, right after Unbound, which I need 2 weeks minimum after that race. I mean, Unbound for me this year is like 560 TSS. You can't actually recover from that.
Yeah, this year too, the Nashville one was significantly harder than it was last year too. And so, yeah, there's not a whole lot of people that come from Kansas to come to the one in Nashville.
Yeah. And then, Kansas, the same thing, is right before Big Sugar, the last race of the Grand Prix. So there's a lot of just contradiction, which it's not on anyone's fault. Like I good friends with Michael and love what he's building, but some of them you just have to pick and choose your priorities at a certain time. And yeah, I have Belgian waffle rides in a special place in my heart, because I mean that started this year off spectacularly with the San Diego win, and meant so much because this is a race that I felt fit me really well. But yeah, I don't know. I'll be interested. I'm trying to go to Vancouver for the BC one this year. I'll definitely go back to Michigan, go back to San Diego. Yeah, maybe try to get one more in there so I can be part of the quadruple crown, but we'll see.
They changed up the one in San Diego. They changed up significantly this year, right? I mean, it used to be have one long climb and go to some single track, and now they put the single track a little bit further into it, right?
They shortened that climb a little bit, but there's definitely still, I would say it's very similar, other than the fact that there's a big, like a more mountain bike-esque descent in the middle. Instead it kind of shortens that climb, which like I have no anger about either way. I mean, the reality is no matter what you do, 135 miles in California is going to be hard. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it changed the elevation or anything. So I think it's just the way they want to play out the race. I think it's always cool to see who comes and shows up that event too. So I think this year will be without a confliction with Epic Ride's Whiskey 50. I think it'll be even more stacked, which will be cool.
Awesome. How about your training for the year? Have you got it dialed in pretty well? Because like you said, you had, races from the very beginning to the end, and you have to pick your peaking times. But have you got it dialed in pretty much what you're happy with, or do you have some tweaks yet to do?
Oh, I mean, you're always changing because everything happens so quickly. Like you have injury or you crash, or you get sick, and everything changes drastically. But I would say I have a good balance. I mean, I keep using that word, but it's honestly what I feel it is. I work hard when I can and I feel up to it, and go easier when I want to enjoy something else. I mean, this year I had 3 European trips that were all for fun, which was awesome. Like one was 8 days before Leadville. I left altitude camp to go watch Sophie race and did ride my bike for 5 days. I mean, that's the beauty of what this is now, is you're not racing for the Tour de France. There's a lot up in the air for what it takes to train for these events. And a lot of them are even survival. I mean, if you're taking, most of us in the front are taking zip ties and duct tape and Unbound, it's a very different race than Tour de France. But yeah, I don't know. I think, most of the year for me is like a big build up to Unbound, big endurance block. And then can pretty much carry that endurance all the way through the year and just start doing workouts that are for each individual race after that. So usually coming a little undercooked for Sea Otter, the first event of the year, and hopefully kind of ride myself into it.
And does it work out for you to be pretty good then when it comes to U.S. Road Nationals? Because you've been really strong the last couple of years for that, no?
I was pretty bad this year.
You were bad this year. The year before you were right up there though, weren't you?
Yeah, no. And I was still top 15 this year. I was racing for third. I just didn't, like, from the beginning of the race, I didn't have the legs. It really depends on how Unbound affects you. It affects everybody differently every time. It's 3 weeks after Unbound, and it's just hard. Like, it's just anybody who pretends like they're doing fine, they're not. And if you go to a really hard race, you'll feel like you're figured out. So it's just not putting yourself too deep in a hole, or you won't find your way out.
Yeah, it changes. I mean, when you were doing the world tour, you had to do this massive base beforehand because a lot of you didn't have time during the year to do that kind of base, right? Because you're racing so many days compared to what you're doing now. And so, yeah, like you said, at this point, you need to be in shape, but if you get too much in shape, for Sea Otter, for example, right, then it makes it really hard to still race in November. And then you want to be, like you said, I mean, how long does Unbound take you? It's like 11 hours, probably, something like that. So
it was sub 10 this year.
Sub 10. Wow. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, but that's still, it's such a, that's longer than any race you would do in the European peloton, and it's over not pavement.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I would honestly say that there's more of a base now than there was in the World Tour. It's just different. You're not trying to fit in workouts also, because the training in the World Tour pushes you forward quite a bit. Or sorry, the racing in the World Tour pushes you forward quite a bit. The racing here doesn't really. Like, you go do one hard day and that's great, but you kind of got to be back on the horse within 2 or 3 days. Other than Unbound. So yeah, I think it's just like, it's being as ready as you can for Unbound endurance wise, and then everything else kind of works itself out. But I've definitely done like a lot, maybe not. I bet you I'm pretty on par with World Tour training for hours before Unbound, and then after it falls off a lot just because you can't keep up with the amount of racing you're doing over there.
Yeah.
Could you have seen yourself racing for the U.S. national team in Australia for the World Championships, like Keegan at that time?
I didn't. Keegan, there needs to be a pathway from gravel to the road, because that's the only pathway that exists right now. And I was stoked Keegan went, but I had so much else going on my plate at that point that I would have loved to go, but it wasn't something that fit in. So I had too many trips going on.
Yeah, but it was pretty impressive how well Keegan did then. I mean, to see someone who doesn't even have a road bike, really. I mean, I guess he had to
Oh, he's
have
got a
some-
road bike.
yeah, he's
Oh,
gotta have
don't give
some-
him that
yeah,
much.
I know. I was gonna say, I was just
No,
being a little
I
facetious, but yeah, he was.
I love Keegan, and that was awesome to see. And it's one of those things that the crossover is bound to happen. Just a bunch of people who've been in charge for a long time don't want it to, but gravel and road are the exact same thing, just different. Like it's the same thing bike, like it's just a different tire. So it's a matter of time to see that happen more and more, to be honest.
Next year will be different too, because it's going to be in Scotland in early August, and just the timing's different, and how it fits into the schedule for gravel and other things too. Like I said, there's definitely a huge crossover both ways. I mean, people doing road coming over to do gravel is huge, and then gravel to road too. But I don't know, do you think that having it in August makes it harder or easier for that crossover?
I just don't think anybody's focused on it over here. There's enough going on. And it's not to say it's not important. It definitely is. All of my being wants to be a road racer still at times, but at the same time, I really enjoy what I'm doing and I have zero regrets. And so it's like this weird place where those races have history, and that's why they're special. And these races are starting to have history, but they're still less than 10 years old. And so it'll be interesting to see things change. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is I'm excited to see the first professional to come straight from gravel and didn't race mountain bikes or road bikes before. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think there has been very few road professionals to come over and race gravel successfully so far, in my opinion. It took me 3 years before I even felt like I could handle a bike well enough. Just very different. But the more that starts happening, it'll be interesting.
Do you have any winter plans indoor racing, the e-races that go on? I mean, you take part in any of that? No.
Michigan boy. No, I'm Michigan boy. I put some studded tires on and go right outside. I definitely do some indoor riding when I have to. You have a workout and you need to get it done, get on. I'll jump into races for fun, but it's not something I like.
Do you have
planned.
a fat tire bike for the really big snow?
Fat tires no fun. Mountain bikes studded tires is everything I need.
Fat tire bikes have pretty much gone to the wayside. I mean, you don't see much of those anymore.
Yeah.
I think they're spectacular for like the perfect conditions, right? It needs to be groomed. You need to have all these things happen. Like a mountain bike can take you a lot further. And I still enjoy being a little bit agile.
Yeah, my mountain bike's got pretty wide tires on it. I don't, if it's any wider than what I would, if I need something wider than that, probably not going to ride it. And then the gravel bike, to be honest too, my widest tires are 40s, and I can get over almost anything with snow and stuff too. So it has to be pretty deep to make that an issue.
Yeah, no, and I think I don't know any room for another bike in my garage. So I'm gonna make that the final reason why I don't have a fat bike. But no, I like riding outside and doing other things in the winter. I'll do like my yearly Tucson trip sometime in February, March. That's usually a good place to like get hard work done that's not been able to be done in the snow. But it's always easy to get on the trainer for half an hour, or get on the trainer for half of your workout, like 2-3 hours, and then go ski or something or do something else and get the heart rate up. Just less stress than people make it out to be sometimes.
How cold is too cold for Willie?
I don't take Willie out below because I usually climb below 40 and above like 80.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be fun for either of us.
Yeah. When you do a Tucson camp, are you looking at mostly just road though then, or you also have gravel routes and stuff like that you're doing in Tucson?
Yeah, probably mostly road, just because it's a lot of just hard work. It doesn't matter what bike you're on, it's just doing hard work, and it's easier to get done on the road. I'll have to bring a mountain bike and gravel bike, but usually won't end up doing too much on those.
Well, I'm just thinking because like I've ridden in Tucson before too, and just on the road, and if I was gonna ride gravel or mountain, I'd have to like research different routes and find out more things too, and just not used to it.
Yeah, I mean, Keegan and Russell bought houses there. I mean, it's incredible gravel mountain bike too. You got to do the same thing we all learned a decade ago. You got to go figure out where the trails are, and so I don't know. It's one of those things that I always like. If I'm there long enough, it's something I add in, but the goal is actually like getting work done. Yeah,
there's a lot of desert in Tucson too, so I'm sure there's lots of semi roads out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes, but Alexey, just seems like you're feeling like you're in a pretty good position. You're pretty happy now. It looks like things are set for you. I know in the past things have maybe been a little unsettled, not knowing exactly where you're going, but I'm feeling pretty confident that you're pretty good place right now. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it'd be interesting for me when I start doing these base miles, to listen to our first podcast and listen to the preceding. I think there's been three before this. And so, just kind of hear myself talk, it'd be interesting. But I mean, yeah, it's been a lot of growth, a lot of scary growth at times. It's cycling is not per se a business itself, but all of a sudden when you just this privateer model, you're doing all your own things. I don't have an agent. I don't have anything. I enjoy that part of it. And it also makes you feel a lot more at home because you end up knowing where you are with a certain sponsor or where you stand with someone else. And being in control of those things can be daunting, but it's also really exciting. And so after, it's been a very lucky and good year. And so I think it gives a lot of excitement going into another year, and there's not much to change. Just keep focusing on what you can do.
Yeah, you're kind of hitting your peak years really physically, aren't you? At the age where a lot of riders will really have your best years.
I'm 27 now. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Age is definitely a number. It'll definitely catch up. I feel old now. I've pretty much felt old since I was 25, if I'm honest. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm definitely in that place where this is the time to focus on training and be the best athlete version of myself I can be, but also remember that it's not all of it for what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So,
well, you are promoting just getting anybody out to ride, or kids, youth. I mean, I think that's got to be a special thing for you to feel satisfied with too. Your involvement with just the fans or the people that want to get on a bike.
Yeah, they all just want to see Willie, not me, but it still works.
Yeah, I'd say definitely. I feel like you're the most comfortable we've ever seen you at this point in time. So that's a great place to be, right?
No, it's great. And yeah, 100%. I mean, I definitely am. I think for the last, if you asked me each of the last couple of years what I was doing for the next 5, I would have told you it was what I was doing. And each time we get to the end of the year, it changes a little bit. This is probably the first year that I'm just like, wow, that all worked. Let's try to do another version of that and just perfect a couple little things. But yeah, as with the past, you know very quickly how that quick things can change so quickly. I think it's being relaxed and prepared, and I don't know, excited for the future, right? It's easy when you've had a good year. I have to carry this energy into if I have a bad year, what happens? So
yeah. Maybe it's
no matter what, they can't take away the good year that you had.
No, that's true.
Yeah. Well, it's being nimble and being resilient, and I think you've built that over the last couple of years too, and so that helps for no matter whatever comes your way. Yeah,
no, for sure. I mean, that's the thing, is I feel as the biggest difference from racing on the road to now is there's a pathway to not being on a bike at some point. Whereas the road there's a very much a quick cliff. You got to figure out what you do and where your parachute is. So I'm much more confident in my own skin for sure. And I think that's partly growing up and partly just figuring out the new version of the sport we have here in the US.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, congratulations on the great year and for where you are now. I hope you have great time back in Michigan and the holidays and enjoy getting out in that cold weather.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for giving me a yearly diary. I'm excited to get some off-season training.
I look forward to this interview with you. I'm so glad that you agreed to join us. Some of the other cyclists we've interviewed, I think they figured they checked off the box and they're done with us. But we appreciate you coming back and catching up with the fellow Michigan guy. So yeah.
Yeah, at some point you might have to put all, if we do a decade of them, just put them all together and let someone listen to 10 hours of awesome, guys.
All right.
Yeah, always thankful.
Thanks, Alexey.
All right. See ya.
Thanks.
It's great to catch up with Alexey each year. It's awesome that he comes back to talk to us. It followed the progress of his cycling career, really. And man, what a great year he had. So the Warren Cycling Podcast, we got to wrap it up real quick. Mostly, I think we'll just, I don't know. I was going to skip birthdays, but it's Bobby Ulick's birthday today. So.
Oh, it's Bobby Ulick's.
Yeah,
he's less than an hour away from me in Greenville too. So I don't see him as often. Wow,
he's 51. I know. It makes me feel old, I guess, that he's 50 now. He and Jens do a great podcast too. If you want to listen to Jens, Bobby and Jens, they I don't know who they haven't interviewed. They interviewed everybody that's big, and they've got all the stories from racing together. But
not with our personality though. So
it's a totally different thing. Yeah. I mean, you got to balance out, like Alexey's got his balance. So
Yeah.
So yeah, happy birthday, Bobby. Sorry if anybody else is celebrating on the 18th today who we're gonna miss
Miss
out on you
out.
today.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's
I
all right.
didn't
Well,
have on my personal birthday list. It was very short this today. So maybe not that many people were born today. So
yeah, I'm sure there were a lot. Anyway, all right, but not cyclists.